So what's our role as a school committee in that? So when let's say on Monday night at 8 o'clock when we're talking about the school committee.
Yeah.
Hi, Fantasyland. What is our role? Like how you know? Can you help?
I do remarks.
Okay.
And then the public gets to speak, and then there's a vote.
Now, in the remarks, do you say where the line item questions are?
I'll probably base my remarks on the viewpoint.
Okay, very good.
So that I'm addressing specifically the warrants.
I thought today's Jamestown Press, if you read it cover to cover, it's just jam full of really good information to help you understand, you know, how the budgets were formulated and why those numbers are coming forward to the town and what the proposed changes would mean. So it's a really good addition. If people want to be informed, I suggest that you get your Jamestown Press and read it.
It is very informative.
Yes, and nice letters from a number of people.
Former experts. But anybody can, everybody has the right to discuss. I mean, traditionally, usually most of the town councilors and school committee members just kind of sit and let it happen because it always went pretty standard. But I would certainly suggest if you have something you want to say, you can say it. Kathy always does her introduction, but then once you have the discussion, there isn't anything, it is perfectly legal for any of us to, I'm kind of thinking about it myself. So I think it's important.
I was just wondering if there was any preparation we need to do as school committee members that,
Well, we think your preparation was being at all the budget workshops.
being there, hearing it.
Jane and I were wondering, you know, given that we're trying to anticipate possible questions that come up, do you then decide who ought to answer that question?
It's always Kathy.
That's fine.
Or the administrator.
Well, last time there were some questions that were directed to me, so I would assume then that you know, I should be the one that will respond to them.
Yeah,
There'll
I
be
don't know.
some
We've
that
never been through this before. I'd say we'll play it by ear.
And similar to budget workshops, so maybe somebody can demure and say, you're the expert in that area.
Right. I mean, I think we have copies of the full budget.
Now,
That was
good point.
Thank you. Bring your copies.
Is there any point in this? Perhaps we don't want to jinx ourselves in looking at what it would do to the school if we lose the 115,000.
But I think that the 100, you know, assuming that that amount were cut from our budget, we will not be able to cut it from the areas that have been identified by those people proposing the warrants. That I mean, we just can't.
It's the law.
And so, you know, we would have to analyze the budget to determine where else could we reduce. And Jane and I, you know, I don't want to answer definitively because this would be, you know, certainly a discussion with the school committee and decisions made. But that's not the only sort of number that's a big question mark.
That terrifying number in the funding, the latest funding formula is huge.
The funding formula that they're discussing tomorrow, we stand to lose $250,000. With the other funding formula that's out there, we stand to lose all of our aid, over $500,000.
Holy smokes.
It wouldn't all be in 1 year.
My discussion with Teresa Piper-Weed, that's the great thing about the parade is,
Yeah.
parade route to discuss. Was, her feeling was that we would probably end up with a compromised version of the RIDE formula. Compromise in that it would bring in some of the Hannah Gallo formula, and that they were going to try to spread so we would probably end up still losing 220,000, half of 51% of our funding, but that they're going to try to spread it over 15 years instead of the original 10. So
Still painful.
This is going to be declining each year going
Right.
forward. So we really don't know what the final number is.
Right.
We did, in this budget, there is in the FY11 state budget, a 3.8% reduction in state aid. We did anticipate when we prepared the budget that we have a cut. So we're covered, we never anticipated the funds that we're losing. So that is not something that we would have to consider reducing going forward. But going back to the 115, I think places that we would start would be those things that aren't mandated, aren't required, and would have the least impact on student achievement. And those things would be extras. After-school enrichment programs, our after-school transportation might be a possibility. Instructional supplies, cutting across the board by a certain percent, reducing then what teachers have available, and depending how deep we would have to go, then I think we'd be looking at support staff. I mean, there may be other things. Budget numbers change as you're going along. You find out, okay, this you have something budgeted for a particular child, and that family moves, or a new family moves in, and they've got children, a child or children that require services that then we have to juggle. We don't know yet on the number of military kids coming in and how that might impact our class makeup. So, as you know, it's always a sort of a moving target.
Right. Okay. All right, then I will see everybody Monday. Is there anything anybody needs to have on the next agenda? We need to have rescinding of pink slips?
I think we need to put it on, and hopefully, we can have made some decisions.
Can that just be under the personnel? I mean, under the consent agenda? We have to
Does that
have
have a budget impact though?
Do we have to have, no, but I mean, in terms of rescinding pink slips, do we have to actually have wording on the agenda that says rescinding of pink slips, or is there an official wording, or is that just coming under personnel? Well, you would recommend that we...
I would recommend you make it as formal a process as possible, official.
All right, then I'll need to check with you on the wording there.
Elizabeth Stone.
And Elizabeth Stone, yeah. And food vendor, do we need to do anything in terms of next year's, contract?
Our contract was approved by RIDE, and I've asked Kathy Rocco to send us a signed copy so that we can sign it and send it up to RIDE.
So there's nothing that needs to be on the agenda for school committee approval?
We're just
But
renewing.
Right,
we might have the transportation contract drafted.
We might have a transportation contract.
No. But for technology either, we asked them, they proposed the technology services and we haven't heard anything.
We're all talking. Yeah. Okay, then, do we have a motion to adjourn at 7:38?
Fantastic. So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.